40 years.
I'd go on very few vacations in my life.
That's how long it took rancher Paul McPherson to earn $900,000 raising cattle and selling tractors.
Because if he could spend that much money that quick and have nothing when he got through.
4 years. That's all it took for his tax guy to steal it.
It's like somebody sticking a big knife in your gut.
In 2016, that trusted tax advisor, Tom Andrews, who 25 years ago went to high school with McPherson's kids, pleaded guilty to fraud.
There's no way he knew what the value of a dollar and how hard it was to get.
$8 million. That's how much Andrews owes McPherson and 21 others. And those victims aren't alone.
People feel like, oh, well, isn't that great? I'm going to get some restitution.
Attorney Mark Pugsley says most never do.
But they wait and they wait and they never get a payment, or if they do, it's minuscule.
There's Wayne Palmer, who guaranteed safe real estate income to his investors. Well, he pleaded guilty to wire fraud and money laundering. He's been ordered to repay his victims $52 million. There's Henry Brock, who promised his investors tax-free retirement account withdrawals. Well, he pleaded guilty to tax evasion and securities fraud. He owes victims $12 million.
We found courts don't do much to help victims either. Judges weigh damages, a criminal's ability to pay, and come up with a payment plan, sometimes just $100 a month.
Congress isn't much help either. It limits those payment plans to 20 years. For Utah, it's all added up to
$800 million.
Yes, you heard that right. Utahns are owed $800 million. And U.S. Attorney John Huber knows his office will be lucky to collect $4 million of that this year.
Our grandmothers taught us the adage, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip.
In most of these cases, the money is already gone. In fact, a nationwide audit found of $110 billion ordered in federal restitution, 90% is uncollectible. But what about cases where there is money? Case in point, Utah lawmaker Phil Lyman. We traveled 6 hours south to San Juan County to talk to him. Why? Well, because in 2015, Lyman was convicted of riding ATVs on closed public land and was ordered to pay the government $90,000 in restitution for damages. Lyman's paying that back at $100 a month. And during our time in Blanding, he told us he didn't want to go on camera to talk about it. But we didn't stop. We paid a visit to Capitol Hill, where Lyman now serves in the legislature. Because during our investigation, we found out taxpayers have paid Lyman $109,000 since his conviction. It's for his wages as a county commissioner, an accountant for a special service district and a water district, and now as a state lawmaker.
Could you use some of this money to pay back taxpayers?
He said no.
I don't have to go beyond that. I don't have to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a really good guy and do much more than the judge did because I don't agree with what he did.
Lyman spoke to us before federal prosecutors asked a judge to increase his payment to $500 a month. If the judge agrees, Lyman will have to pay back his full $90,000 to taxpayers in 18 years. If not, Lyman will pay back only a quarter of what he owes. While it may be easier for taxpayers to swallow those kinds of losses, for victims of fraud like Paul McPherson,
I got one check for $113.52.
He'll have to work the rest of his life to get back the $900,000 he lost to his taxman. So far, he's gotten $413.75.
That restitution order is worth nothing to speak of.
Debbie Dujanovic, KSL 5 News. Terry Baldwin survived war.
War on terrorism, Afghanistan. I was getting ready to deploy to Saudi Arabia.
2 decades, 2 war-torn countries.
This was my son. He was approximately eight months old.
It was his job as a supply chief to ensure his fellow Marines were ready to fight.
Logistics. So we're out, with the log trains making it happen, giving them the beans, bullets, and bandages.
His truck survived a landmine in the desert.
It was just a big jar, and of course a lot of smoke and this and that, and then we realized what had happened.
But he never expected
You do not seem like the typical fraud victim.
to be ambushed in Clinton, Utah.
No, they got me. That's all I can say. It's just amazing how advanced they are with these techniques. Looks like they mowed the grass here, huh?
You see, Baldwin and his wife bought this house in August
Oh, look at the flowers.
for their daughter and his 80-year-old mother.
Give back to what she's given us so many years.
Along the way, they
So
got
that's
taken,
62.5.
big time, for more than $60,000.
How did they fool you?
You know, I don't know. I can't really tell you an answer to that because there was no signs. The English was perfect, the communications were perfect, the specific details.
What happened to Terry floored us. Hackers send infected emails to real estate agents, title companies, even attorneys. If they click a link inside, hackers infiltrate their computers and lie in wait, watching for an upcoming home sale and an unsuspecting buyer.
I emailed my realtor and told them that we're good to close.
In Baldwin's case, they sent him an email posing as his real estate agent. Here's what it said.
Can you wire closing funds today? The balance of your down payment to wire is $62,500. I will send wiring instruction in a separate email.
This wasn't our realtor. We thought it was. It was addressed from her, but this was the hacker.
The number is the balance of your down payment. Any other charge will be settled at closing. You will need to bring a valid ID and your checkbook to closing.
The fraudsters email their victims wire transfer instructions, telling them to send the down payment to the scammer's bank account.
How legit do these emails seem?
When you look at it, you think that it is coming from the title company.
Realtor Joshua Stern believes these types of scams happen every other day here in Utah. He's so worried, he makes his buyers swear.
Raise their right hand and say, all right, you swear to me that you will never, ever send money without personally confirming with the title company the account number that you're sending the money to. Promise me.
You know, I had to applaud, you know, if you think of it that way, I had to applaud them. It was a perfect crime.
The Baldwins followed the hackers' instructions to a T, wiring their down payment to an Atlanta, Georgia bank. At the closing, they gave the escrow officer here in Utah the receipt.
And she looked at it, and as she read it, for lack of a better word, she freaked out. And she says, oh my gosh, we've been hacked. This is fraud.
Did you just think you'd stepped into the twilight zone?
I started seeing all these things happen and flash, you know, before me over the past 10 or 11 years of things that we've done, you know, to save this money and things that we sacrificed and this and that. Those all flashed before my mind because it was over and gone and stolen from me in a second.
They'll just get in the middle of that and pretend to be that.
KSL investigators went to the FBI. Cyber supervisor Jeffrey Collins says wire transfer scams have exploded here.
You know, in last year, I think in Utah alone, it was around $2 million. And we've already surpassed 20 million this year.
Collins says hackers target real estate transactions because it's quick, easy, and like finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
It's really easy to just get into someone's email, watch, wait, and then, you know, trick them into wiring the money.
So treat wire transfers like cash, because once the bad guys get it, it's gone. Baldwin expects he will never see his 60 grand again.
Everybody's saying 99.9% no.
But he was able to get that house for his mom because he drained the rest of his savings to make another down payment.
It was a brand new Dodge truck.
Now he hopes his story will protect thousands of other home buyers in Utah. And he's made one new promise to himself.
I'll never wire anything again.
If life was a game, sometimes no matter how hard you try, you just can't win. But in Weber County, some have found a way. In 2008, Weber County created an early retirement incentive. Retire early, the county would pay for 5 more years of health insurance. Then, in 2014, Commissioners Carrie Gibson, Matthew Bell, and Jan Zogmeister approved a tweak. They allowed elected and only elected officials to take the benefit worth tens of thousands of dollars in one lump sum payout. 4 years in office, they're eligible. Leave office, quit midterm, get voted out, they're eligible.
Wow. You know, this is certainly a golden parachute for elected officials.
Should taxpayers be concerned that their money is being used this way?
This is not good public policy. The commission, and if there's any other counties that have this same type of benefit, should reevaluate.
After our interview with the Taxpayers Association, we randomly surveyed 10 other counties across the state, and none had a similar policy.
Looks like she got $52,999.80.
So who took the cash? Well, KSL investigators obtained the payout agreements and pay stubs. They show the 3 commissioners who voted for the policy, Gibson, Bell, and Zogmeister, received between $52,000 and $66,000 when they left office. Former county attorney Dee Smith also received a $65,000 payment. So far, the payouts have cost Weber County taxpayers nearly $250,000, and that didn't sit well with the taxpayers KSL Investigative producer Mark Stevens talked to at the fair.
I just don't think they should get a payout like that. I don't believe in that.
They're elected. Are they a paid position when they're elected?
Yeah, they're a $120,000 position.
Well, then maybe not so much.
So we went looking for answers from Weber County's 3 former commissioners. We called, we messaged, we went to offices, we went to homes.
Hi, I'm Debbie Janovic with KSL. I was hoping to talk to Jan Zogmeister. She is not here.
None would answer my burning question on camera. Is this an appropriate use of our tax dollars? Former Commissioner Gibson now works for the state, so we went to his office. He would only talk to me by phone from the lobby. He says he thought the payout change in 2014 was for all employees, not just elected officials. And he says elected officials should get the same benefits as employees.
Kind of naive of me thought that the benefit was applied evenly across the board.
Current Commissioner James Ebert says he learned about the benefit when he took office in 2015.
County policy should be fair and equitable to everyone within the county.
Ebert has one big decision to make. He qualifies for it. And he wasn't reelected.
Are you going to take the cash? I really don't know what I'm going to do. I got to find a job still.
If he does, it means taxpayers will fork out even more than that $250,000 for a policy only a few can seem to win. It's a sinking feeling seeing a cop car with its lights on behind you.
Right when the light turned green, that's when the red and blue started shining.
This is police car video of an officer following Kelly Shido, pulling her over into a parking lot and blocking her car in while she was on her way to breakfast one Sunday.
My name's Officer Mahoski. I'm with North Salt Lake Police.
You weren't speeding.
Yeah.
You didn't run a red light.
I was just sitting at a stoplight.
The reason I stopped you today is I show your vehicle doesn't have insurance.
Shido says it does.
It definitely does.
The officer says it doesn't.
It's just when I ran your plate, it's showing that in our state system that there's no insurance.
Did you have insurance?
I did, yeah, absolutely.
Did you have proof of it there?
I didn't in my car because I had just used it and forgot to put it back in my car.
Without an insurance card on hand to prove it.
And they said that this vehicle is not on the policy.
Shido got a ticket.
I'm going to issue a citation today for driving without insurance. So I'll just have you sign that copy there for me.
After we heard Shido's story, we looked deeper, and it turns out there are about 56,000 drivers in Utah who may end up just like her, which means if you're one of the unlucky ones, police could pull you over and tell you to prove you have insurance.
A company named InsureRight operates the database police use.
The audit shows that we are over 96% accurate.
CEO Richard Casteller says repeated state audits show of all the policies fed into the database, there's a margin of error that is under 5%.
In that matching process, you're going to have some mistakes when you have, a couple of billion records and 300 different insurance companies.
Mistakes? An insurance company doesn't report your new policy right away. A clerical error in your VIN number. And in Shido's case, you happen to have an insurance policy from another state. Insurance companies outside of Utah aren't required to report to the database. So police run your license plate, your car pops up.
So your vehicle doesn't have insurance.
Uninsured. Its legality may be for a court to decide. Its effectiveness, you decide. The KSL investigators reviewed 3 years' worth of traffic stops from across Utah and found almost 12,000 tickets issued for no insurance. West Valley City Police used it the most, issuing 568 tickets. And our research shows 150 of those drivers actually did have insurance and proved it in court.
You cannot be stopped by a policeman just to check and see if you're violating the law.
Defense attorney and former prosecutor Kent Morgan.
So do you think it's a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights?
Yes, I do, and so does the Supreme Court of the United States.
And he says police should not be using this database at all as a reason to stop you. He argues officers need to first spot you breaking the law, speeding, maybe running a red light. He's getting cases thrown out of court with that argument.
Policemen need to be educated on what's an appropriate reason to pull somebody over.
We do it to protect the motorists of the state of Utah.
Motor Vehicle Enforcement Director Alan Shinny defended officers' use of the database. Other officers we spoke to by phone insisted it is not a violation of your civil rights because the law says we have to have car insurance.
Especially if you're a single mother or college student where you just have liability and then you go get in a wreck with someone that has no insurance and then you have nothing. And that's happened to 3 of my family members. It's pretty painful.
But don't wait longer than 14 or else it does turn into a warrant.
Now, if you end up like Kelly Shido and can't provide proof on the spot, officers, well, they can impound your car, which will cost you a couple $100.
So legally, I cannot let you drive away without insurance. However, we are in a parking lot. It is private. I'm not going to sit here and watch you.
In her case, the officer cut her a break. She did not get towed.
Call someone, do what you need to do, but...
She fought it in court, proved she was insured all along, and got the ticket dismissed.
And have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Okay, how do you fight the ticket on the spot? Carry your insurance card, either on your phone or in your glove box. The database company sends out letters to warn people they're showing up as uninsured, and they told us they did send one to Kelly. She says she never got one, likely because of several moves. If you do get one, Mike, do not ignore it.
This will affect a lot of people, and a lot of people change insurance companies quite often. Is there a way to check?
Yes, but the onus is on you, me, and everyone else. Once we brought the concerns to the database company, they said, go ahead and give them a call. They will actually see if you're labeled as insured on the database, and we've put more information on how to do that at ksltv.com.
Right, great story as usual, Debbie. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You want to get the water right at the root system. Don't worry about when you water going and spraying the leaves.
Ryan Glover's nursery depends on a constant supply of clean water.
Watering is the most important part of a nursery.
But when it comes to the water bill, well, he's not sure how much the people providing his water
I would imagine
earn.
Probably $100,000 to $150,000 a year would be my guess.
Not quite, Ryan. You're a little low. KSL investigators analyzed compensation packages which include benefits like health care and sometimes a car. We found the top 5 employees of Utah's water conservancy districts earn on average over $250,000 last year. Take Richard Bay, $273,000, Tage Flint, $272,000, Nathan Shawcroft, $260,000, and the list, it just keeps going. Utah Taxpayer Association Vice President Billy Hesterman says,
I mean, it's obscene. We don't understand why someone at this level needs to earn that kind of money.
These top pay packages drown Governor Gary Herbert's and the Attorney General's. Even the retired Public Safety Commissioner earned less. They're more on par with district court judges around the state.
Am I paying to get water, or am I paying for them to get a nice compensation package?
We think taxpayers should look at this and go to those districts and say, what are you doing? Why do you need so much? And why is this justified?
Here's our newest expansion area to show.
KSL investigators took that question to the top earner on our list, Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District CEO Richard Bay.
I think the public is getting a great bargain from my services.
Bay's pay and benefits cost taxpayers over $273,000 last year. Now for some context. He's worked here for 37 years, started out as a staff engineer and worked his way up to the corner office. When he became CEO, he was paid $176,562. It's gone up 55% since he became CEO 12 years ago.
When you say they're getting a great bargain, how so?
My years of experience, my abilities to develop and negotiate for new water sources, my ability to oversee the operation and maintenance of hundreds of miles of pipeline serving 1 million people in Salt Lake Valley.
Bay oversees over 150 employees. He's on call at all times because when you turn on the faucet, well, you expect the water to flow.
Every minute, every hour without fail.
Bay told us he's helped his water district take on mining giant Kennecott and got it to pay millions more to clean up polluted groundwater. Water you're now drinking.
A third of the state lives right here in my service area in Salt Lake Valley.
But Hesterman isn't convinced.
This is reaching a level that's far too high for us.
He says it's far too easy for taxpayers to look past these water conservancy districts. And no kidding, this not-so-exciting meeting we went to, only 18 people in the audience, and many of them appeared to be staffers.
We often think of school districts, cities, counties, the state, but we forget about this this level of government that we have.
It's not too hard to forget once you see these pay records. They keep going and going.
I'm not sure that these salaries are what we need to pay to have someone accomplish those duties.
Of the 24 districts we analyzed, a third of the employees earned $100,000 and up, way up. Cars held together with bungee cords, trucks illegally lifted to the point they swallow a small car on impact, headlights that probably belong on a Christmas tree, and crashes caused in part by bald tires.
We have seen an increase in the number of vehicles that are either crashing, slide-offs, or they're having a hard time getting up the ramps.
Bald tires putting this car into the ditch, shutting down the interstate in this crash, and killing people. A grandmother of 18, a father of 2. Let's back up 2 years. That's when Utah lawmakers stopped requiring cars to get a safety inspection.
Some people treat a vehicle like a microwave. They just expect it to run until it dies.
These mechanics want the mandatory safety inspections brought back to make our roads safer for everyone.
I'm on the road with you. It's not just for your car, it's for mine as well.
Before the law change, a car owner paid a mechanic $15 to inspect everything from headlights to hidden parts we can't see.
You can't necessarily see the inside of the tire unless you have a lift. Not many people have a lift at home. So if you look at this tire and you just see the outside of it because it's covered by the fender, you think I have good tires. Well, when you're getting an inspection, they're able to catch things like that.
If we have excessive play in those, something like that's going to fail.
Speaking of fail, mechanics see all kinds of scary stuff. Check this out.
This is why we need state inspections. And it's not even in here for that to get fixed.
No inspection requiring it to be fixed, a driver can keep on trucking.
Ridiculous.
The facts are that mandatory vehicle inspections are, by and large, a feel-good effort that yields little to no verifiable effort.
This is Senator Dan McKay in 2017, telling his fellow lawmakers studies didn't support the state forcing car owners to visit a mechanic. He stands by it today.
I know that our roads are safer today as a result of us doing away with vehicle safety inspections.
The new law put police in charge of catching cars with safety problems.
Troopers and police officers seem busy enough. Why give them more work to do?
I'm not giving troopers more work to do. I think those of us who live among us that aren't caring for their cars or doing whatever, I think they're the ones adding to their labor.
KSL investigators obtained 2 years of unsafe vehicle ticket data from Utah courts. We compared the number of tickets filed during the final year of mandatory safety inspections against the number of tickets filed in the first year without those inspections. We found police officers gave out 43% more tickets for unsafe vehicles across the state after safety inspections went away.
That's great, isn't it? People are getting immediate feedback on the safety of their vehicle, and they're able to go and get it repaired immediately.
McKay says his law tacked on $1 to our car registrations to give the Highway Patrol $2.6 million in new money for more equipment and more troopers.
But having additional enforcement and having additional troopers on the road really is making a difference for our roads.
However,
that hasn't happened.
Mark Zeisiger is a lieutenant colonel with the Highway Patrol. He says not a single additional trooper has been hired with the money yet.
The first thing they have is just a tint meter.
The money has equipped each trooper with these safety inspection tools, so now troopers can check tire treads, window tint, and vehicle height, on top of looking out for drunk drivers, speeders, and people talking on their cell phones.
We have a lot of demands. There's no question about it.
He admits troopers can't inspect all 1.9 million cars on our roads, so the goal is to stop the cars that could cause a crash. Troopers stopped 35,000 last year. But on the side of the road, a trooper can't check what a mechanic could see in a garage.
Obviously, we're not getting down into brakes and all those kind of things in the underside of the vehicle on a regular enforcement stop.
Meaning the car on the road next to you may be unsafe to drive.
As Utah searches for solutions to gun violence, special court orders may be a common-sense way to prevent suicides, murders, and mass shootings.
The orders allow law enforcement or family members to petition a judge to take someone's firearms away
if they pose an extreme risk. 5 states have passed versions of these gun violence restraining orders, and as many as 30 states are considering or have considered similar laws. We sent KSL's Mark Stevens to San Diego for more.
In the puzzle of potential solutions to mass shootings, the newest piece may be found here in California. San Diego City Attorney Mara Elliott has given gun violence restraining orders top priority.
We don't have to wait for a crime to occur.
Her office has gotten 15 approved in the last 3 months.
If there are enough indicators that there potentially could be a danger if this person continued to possess a gun or have the ability to get custody of a gun, then we can act.
Before it existed, judges could only take away a person's guns if they had been convicted of either a felony or a domestic violence crime. Now, with the restraining order law, police, family members, or housemates can petition a judge to take someone's guns away for a year if they feel the person is a threat to themselves or others. The judge will hold a hearing within 3 weeks to determine if the one-year restraining order is needed.
Bond versus Loya.
At this hearing, Escondido police officer Craig Bond wants the judge to approve a gun violence restraining order against a man struggling with alcohol addiction, possible PTSD, and thoughts of suicide. The man's wife called police back in January.
I'd hate to see him shoot himself accidentally or, heaven forbid, kill his wife accidentally.
Bond works on a special police detail responding to people who are in a mental health crisis. He says these orders are a good tool to have.
Personally, yeah, I'm a Second Amendment person. I want good people to have access to firearms. But if there is a reason, a compelling reason, if you're mentally unstable and you've proven in your behavior that you're dangerous, we need to, put that restriction in place.
Just this last month, the city attorney got a restraining order against an employee of this car dealership. He was worried about getting fired and threatened to shoot up the dealership and the person who fired him. And in this neighborhood, police got a restraining order after they say a drunk man started shooting his pistol at what he thought were raccoons and rats.
If this were a law in Florida, potentially could it have stopped that shooting?
In Florida, there were a lot of indicators. And I like to believe here in San Diego, we would have done something about it.
A significant danger to
Back in the courtroom, the judge agreed with Bond and approved the one-year restraining order. Another piece of the puzzle getting attention in California, Utah, and elsewhere as the nation searches for solutions.
We have seen a lot of inaction at the federal level, so I think that we need to be chipping away state by state in order to protect children and families.
Mark Stevens, KSL 5 News.
Mark, thank you. Utah State Representative Steve Handy proposed creating a similar restraining order law here. The bill didn't pass out of committee over concerns about due process rights and whether the focus should be on getting people help. It was held for further study.